My husband is upset with me for not looking enough like a mom because I still put effort into my appearance, but I feel like being myself makes me a better parent. My husband Dan, 32M, and I, 31F, have been married for 3 years and 8 months ago welcomed our amazing son into the world. He was very planned and wanted, and motherhood had been transformative for me. I was able to take 4.5 months maternity leave before going back to work. Without going into too many details, we both work white-collar jobs that require professional attire. A normal workday look for me is a skirt or pair of slacks, a silk blouse, pumps or boots depending on the weather, but always with a heel because I'm 5'0", maybe a blazer if I have a big meeting. Dan wears a suit almost every day. I also style my hair and do some makeup for work every day. This is what I wore before our son was born and what I continue to wear. Dan and I are pretty even in sharing parenting duties. I tend to take mornings because I'm more of a morning person than Dan. A normal morning for me starts early, short workout, shower, get baby up, get baby ready and baby off to Dan because the daycare is on Dan's way to work. I'm normally dressed at the tail end of this process, but I keep my robe on over my clothes in case my son wants to give my outfit something to remember him by on our way out the door. For the last month or so, Dan has been more irritable than normal in the morning. There have been side comments if he gets up and I'm drying my hair or getting dressed, basically if I'm not 100% focused on my son in the AM. Our son is happy playing and supervised, so I just chalked it up to morning moodiness, but it's been getting worse. Last night I brought it up in what I thought was a neutral, non-confrontational way. Basically his answer was this: his mom was 100% a mom after her kids were born. She gained a fair amount of weight after she had kids and never tried to lose it. She wore sweatpants every day and works a job where she wears a uniform, so if she wasn't in her work uniform she was in sweats and a t-shirt. She never did her hair or makeup. Her entire identity was being a mom, and she shared with me how hard it was to watch her kids start their own lives. Dan thinks I don't care about our son as much as he does since I worked on losing the baby weight and still put effort into my appearance. I feel like keeping this part of my identity actually helps me be a better mother. I love my son, but I'm still me and I still have the things I like to do. Dressing well, my identity actually helps me be a better mother. I love my son, but I'm still me and I still have the things I like to do. Dressing well, blowing out my hair and doing my makeup are therapeutic to me. Now that being said, my son is my life, and if I knew that not doing those things but guarantee him a happy, healthy life, I would stop immediately. I told Dan that my son and I have our morning routine and he gets lots of time and attention before I go to the office. Dan said he wasn't looking to fight, but he just wanted me to think about my priorities and my time management. Is it normal for new moms to totally sacrifice all the things you like to do? Is this a sign of something deeper I need to address with my husband? Update: 10 days later. I had no idea my post would get so much attention. There was a lot of really solid advice, and one creepy private message warning me that by dressing in business attire and wearing lipstick and heel I was being overly intimate around my child, and that would turn my son into a serial killer. Stay gold, Reddit. A couple of clarifying points. 1. My mother-in-law did work when my husband was growing up. She just did not have an office job. She works in a medical field and wears scrubs every day. When she's not in scrubs, she's in sweatpants. Seriously. For our wedding, his family started a pool about whether or not she would wear sweats to the wedding. 2. I did not suddenly get hot after my son was born. I was slightly overweight before my son was born, and I'm back to my pre-baby slightly overweight shape. Now the update: Dan and I went out without our son so we could talk. I told him that I was confused by his comment and I wanted to talk about it. I asked him if he could name specific things about the morning routine that made him feel as though our son was neglected. I offered to switch shifts, so to speak, if he thought our son should have more morning parent time. To make a long and confusing conversation short, Dan's confused by the fact that I got over my postpartum depression and am back to normal now. For some context, my PPD never made me question whether or not I loved my son or made me feel like we never should have had him. My PPD made me feel like I was constantly failing my son, that I wasn't good enough to be his mom and that he deserved better. There were a few times I broke down and started crying and would tell Dan that he was so much better at being a parent than I was and that our son didn't deserve to have a crappy mom like me. Luckily, I have an amazing DR who recognized that this wasn't just baby blues and helped me get the help I needed. It could have been much worse. Basically, Dan only felt like a good parent when I was failing and telling him that I was terrible at it. Now that I'm doing better, he no longer feels like a good dad. It's crappy, but we're starting couple counseling. I'm continuing with the counseling I started for my PPD, and Dan's going to see someone too. We're going to figure it out, and I'm still going to wear heels to work even though it's going to turn my son into an axe murderer.